I don't think anyone predicted the New York Jets to get off to a 3-9 start this season, and the way they've been playing as of late, it almost feels like the season is all but over, but that's not the case. The Jets still have 5 games left, so what should fans keep their eyes peeled for these next 5 games? And we will do that and much more, all here on a Monday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. Same result week in and week out. It starts to feel like Jets drop another really rough game to the Seattle Seahawks. Special teams was on fire early. The Jets were ahead. They were ahead going into halftime, and then don't score a single point in the second half. Another defensive implosion. Aaron Rodgers' third consecutive game without surpassing 200 passing yards. An absolute mess. We'll get into all that much more here on this Monday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. But let's bring on our guest. It's our guy. He covers the team for the New York Daily News, Mr. Antwan Staley, joining us. And Antwan, you've seen it firsthand in the building every single day, the collapse of this team. I know you weren't very high on the team entering the season. You thought, playoffs was arguably their ceiling. Did you expect it to be this bad?
No, I don't think anybody expected it to be this bad. I mean, this is just complete disaster on so many levels. But no, I don't think anybody, even if they thought the Jets were overrated, would expect them to be this bad. I mean, they're one of the worst teams in football, and it just doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. And I don't know if they're going to win another game this season.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that the Jets were arguably having a bit more success even with Zach Wilson last year than we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers. Him kind of, still directing a bit of blame, as we saw yesterday during his post-game media availability, not taking full accountability, which is something that's interesting because Rodgers, mixed reputation among the league. Some say he's a locker room cancer. Some say he's this leader who's going to take accountability for everything. We've kind of seen a conglomeration, a mix of those two things from him this season. I guess what I want to how I want to start the show off really, Antwan, is the 3-9 record. It's so disappointing, but there's still 5 games left, and we start to get to see some of the younger pieces get involved. Yesterday, Isaiah Davis, he had a touchdown. I thought he played a great overall game. We hadn't seen him since week 1 garbage time, where he took a couple snaps out of the backfield. Obviously, Davis is a guy. Can we expect him to take a few more snaps out of the backfield, get him more involved in the game plan these final 5 games? And who are some players you want to keep your eyes peeled for? I know Olu Fashanu was a brick wall blocking for Aaron Rodgers' blind side yesterday. Who are these top guys you want to look at?
I think obviously you want to see a little bit of Corley, just kind of see what he can do there. Depending on the status of Sauce Gardner, we may be seeing a little bit more stickers on Sunday because obviously everybody remembers the pass interference call there. But I mean, Sauce Gardner has a hamstring injury. He says he'll be fine, but at the same time, hamstring injuries kind of linger on. So he might play. He might be out for 2 or 3 weeks too. Like, you just don't know, especially with those injuries. So I think you're just gonna have to monitor it as time goes on there. But yeah, I think Corley stickers there. Obviously, you alluded to Isaiah Davis there, Braylon Allen as well, because I think Breece Hall is not healthy. I didn't understand why they played him yesterday in a game where you're not going to make the playoffs. I mean, it's not like your life is on the line here against Seattle. So just rest him, help make sure he gets healthy there. Obviously, he played. He was kind of effective. Obviously, he had the big fumble there, which he blamed for. But the guy's hurt at this juncture. Like, just sit him out. I think that's just the reasonable thing to do at this juncture there, especially considering you got 5 games left. Nothing to play for other than pride at this point. And then you don't want an injury, a significant injury just to kind of carry on the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of leads me to my next point. Jeff Ulbrich, he was non-committal yesterday on Aaron Rodgers being the starter, but he said during his call with you guys via video conference today that Aaron Rodgers is their guy. He's going to be their starting quarterback the rest of the way if he's fully healthy. You mentioned Breece there. Could you see the Jets shutting any of these guys down, whether it's, starting next week in Miami or, the last 2-3 weeks of the season? What do you think the Jets do there in terms of shutting the veterans or younger pieces like Breece, who is up for an extension in a few seasons?
Well, I think, I'll start with Aaron. I don't think they should shut him down, although, I mean, there's some talk about should they. I mean, at this point, I mean, you might as well just go ahead and ride it out. I mean, there's 5 games left.
Mm.
I mean, I know a lot of people have been clamoring to see Tyrod Taylor, but I think we already know what Tyrod Taylor is at this juncture of his career, too. I mean, a veteran there. He could potentially win you some games, too, which I know some Jet fans don't want that to happen at this
Yep.
point for obvious reasons, along with the draft and everything like that. But I mean, it's Aaron. He probably has 5 games left, I imagine, maybe in his career. Just the way that it's looking right now. So, just play him, see what happens there. I don't think they're going to shut him down. Jeff Albrecht was asked, "Is Aaron Rodgers your quarterback?" And he kind of just said, "Yeah, he's our guy, right?" So,
Yeah.
I think he's going to continue to play there. In terms of everybody else, again, like I think Brees, if he's not healthy, then just shut him down there, put him on IR there.
Mhm.
They already put Tyron Smith on IR. I don't expect him to play another down for the Jets too. It was a massive
Arguably
disappointment
in
there.
football, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's another guy there. We'll be interesting to see if Alan Lazard gets starts practicing this week. There, he is eligible to open his 21-day practice window to be eligible to start this week. So I think he probably will play, but we'll have to ask Albrecht there on Wednesday there. But other than that, yeah, I don't see a lot of guys getting shut down, but it's also going to depend on the injury status moving forward too. Which I'm sure some guys are probably going to get nicked up as the season comes to a close.
Yeah, the Rodgers situation is really interesting because there's a lot of different directions the Jets can go with him, whether it's him possibly being cut before June 1st, being cut after June 1st. There's so much that can happen there. I think my bottom line, Antwan, is I don't think he's returning next season, and I think the benefit I see you shaking your head there. I think the benefit now for the Jets is to start him and just see, is he able to just put something together? I've been wanting to see Tyrod just. I understand when the Jets are going to start Aaron, but throw Tyrod out for a series or two. I've been saying it the past few weeks now. It can't be much worse than what we've seen from Rodgers, who hasn't surpassed 200 passing yards in now 3 consecutive games. He's been a mess all season long, hasn't passed 300 passing yards in, I think, 34 games now.
35 now.
35, yeah, now after Sunday. I saw the Connor Hughes stat that he threw out there, 0-5, when he's had the opportunity to lead the Jets down on a game-winning drive. So the Aaron Rodgers experiment hasn't panned out, and I think the best thing right now for this team to do is just chalk it up and try to move on, get into the rebuilding phase next season yet again. But Antwan, one more point before we transition out to the future. Kene Ngwanwu. I'm trying to say the name correctly there, Antwan. Former Vikings running back. He's now with the Jets. I think he was the most electrifying player on the field yesterday, quite frankly, forcing the fumble on the kickoff, then housing a 99-yard kick return. They elevate him to the active roster today for good. They release Izzy Abanikanda. Antwan, Izzy Abanikanda is someone who hasn't been active for the Jets this season. 5th-round pick last year. He has lightning speed. Do you think he's going to revert to the Jets practice squad? Are you concerned someone might want to try to take a flyer on him? I mean, he is young. I think he's 22 or 23 years old. So are there any concerns there, or do you think the Jets will get him back no problem?
I think they will just put him on the practice squad. I mean, maybe if some injuries come about to another team, maybe they put him, maybe they sign him. I think the problem with Izzy is he has no special teams value. So if you're going to be a 5th-round pick, and I thought they probably should have thought about that before they drafted him. If you have no special teams value, then and then you're a 5th-round pick, then it's kind of hard to get on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then I think you're kind of seeing that, and that's why I think a lot of people wanted to see Izzy, but when you're not bringing anything to the table on special teams, yeah, it's going to be hard to get on the field, especially when you got guys like Brees Hall and obviously Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, who especially Davis, who plays special teams. I mean, and be quite honest with you, he didn't do a whole lot of that at South Dakota State, but I guess he's bought into the program and also decided to be utilized in special teams, whether it be the return game, especially. So yeah, I think Izzy will land back on the practice squad, but I don't think I don't think another team will pick him up probably unless like something crazy happens.
Now, Antwan, to transition into the offseason, the GM, the head coach talks, they're starting to heat up. For the GM candidates, I know you spoke about Ray Agnew a few weeks ago on here. He's someone you really liked. His son is a pro scout for the Jets. He seems to really like the Jets organization. Who are some other guys you'd keep your eyes on? John Dorsey and Andy Weidel from the Steelers. Who else are you hearing? And is there the potential for maybe an in-house hire that Jeremy Fowler suggested just a few weeks ago? Is there any shot that Phil Savage potentially can retain this position?
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you never say never, especially with Woody Johnson controlling the hiring process. So anything's possible there. Thomas Dimitrov, who was the former general manager of the Falcons before he got fired. I mean, that might be an option too as well. So yeah, I mean, I think in addition to Agnew, I definitely think it depends on what they're looking for. If they're looking for a guy that has experience, then maybe you go to Dimitrov route too. But if you're looking for
Mhm.
a guy that's doesn't have, being general manager experience. And I think, a guy like Ray Agnew makes a lot of sense too. And it also depends on where you might want to go coaching wise too. So obviously they can't speak to anybody right now unless they don't have a job.
Yep.
So we're not going to know necessarily what their targeting is for sure, probably towards the end of the season. But yeah, I mean, I expect all of those two games to be on the list too as well.
Now, Anton, what do you think is the main intangible this team should really hone in on the 33rd team as they conduct this GM search? Do you think this team should be more focused on bringing in someone who has more experience as a talent evaluator or a cap guy? What do you think is most important for this team moving forward?
Somebody that can lead men, somebody that can build a
Mhm.
program. I think if they need a program builder, and I think that's what's been missing for the Jets for a long time. Somebody that can, come in and establish a culture, something that
Yep.
they've been severely
Mhm.
lacking. I think Robert Saleh tried to do that. Obviously, it wasn't successful, but they need somebody that from day one, like they have an identity. Like this team is a tough, physical team, which I think they need to be, especially playing in New York, especially with the people that are there. That I think they can gravitate towards the team there, and also the division that they play in. I mean, you got a team like the Buffalo Bills who have a great offensive line. Obviously, we know Josh Allen's all world, probably the MVP at this moment too.
Yep.
So if you're going to compete with them, I think you need somebody that can come in and just create a physicality, just a good physical, strong-minded team, and whoever that is. But I think that's what I would look for with the next coach too, because you have to get this right. Because I think you look at a team like the Patriots. I know the Patriots aren't very good; they're 3-10 right now, but they showing signs that they're
Yeah.
starting to improve. I mean, they almost beat the Colts yesterday. They obviously beat the Jets early on in the season. They pushed some teams as of late too, and I think Drake May is starting to show some signs there. And they have a lot of money to spend cap wise. So I think if they address the offensive line and get some help at the skill position players, then I think the Patriots could be a player in possibly a couple of years there. So that's why this hire is so important there. So so you can make sure that you can get in the mix for the playoffs too, especially you don't get left behind there.
You mentioned the head coach position already there, Antwan. That kind of leads me to my next point. I know a lot of fans are talking about the Mike Vrabels, the Ben Johnsons, the Todd Munkins of the world. I want to get your thoughts there because I think those options are a bit far-fetched just given the situation this Jets team is in. I've been looking at more the lower leverage guys who have head coach experience. I'm a big fan of Brian Flores. I'm a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury interviewed for the job when Gase got it, I think 2018, 2019 it was.
2019, yeah.
2019, yeah. Kingsbury ended up landing with the Cardinals. He spent 4 seasons there, took them into the playoffs, led them to an 11-6 season. The thing I really like about him, Antwan, is he helped develop Kyler Murray early, and you see what he's been doing now with Jaden Daniels in Washington. He has experience working with guys like Caleb Williams, helped develop Johnny Manziel into a great college player while he was at the college level. So, what are your thoughts on Kingsbury, Flores, any other under the radar guys you're keeping your eyes peeled for?
I like Flores. I think what's going to be key to him is who can be the offensive coordinator. Like,
Yep.
who is he? What is his plan? What is his plan to be OC?
Mm,
Because I mean, look at the Dolphins situation. That did not end well at all. Like, he kind of
no.
went through a few coordinator positions. I think the main thing was he didn't necessarily believe in Tua. The ownership did, and then the ownership ultimately chose Tua over him. No matter what you think. So I think Flores is going to get another head coaching job. It's just a matter of whether it is. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. So I just would like to hear what his plan is for the offense there before I would make the hire. But yeah, certainly, like he definitely has to be a candidate too, and I think he'll get a lot of interest there because I expect it to be probably like 7 head coaching job vacancies throughout the off season.
Yes. Mhm.
Probably some that we don't necessarily know at the moment. Maybe the Browns open up there. If it does, then Kevin Stefanski is a guy that I would definitely look at
Yeah.
too if that becomes an option there. I mean, talk about somebody that's been the coach of the year there, has
Mhm.
guided the Browns to the playoffs there. I think he's a really good offensive mind too as well. And especially if you're going to take a quarterback or whether it be next
Mhm.
year or the year after, I think he'd be a good tool resource to have on your rosters. I mean, on your team. So I think he would be somebody that I would kind of look at as well. But yeah, Cliff Kingsbury. I think Chicago is going to look really heavy at him, especially firing Matt Eberflus there. And you mentioned his relationship with Caleb Williams when he was at USC. So yeah, I think he'll get a lot of options there, especially with the work he's done with Jaden Daniels. So yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with him either. I think he was kind of a bit of a bad situation in Arizona there, especially with
lost the locker
with
room at
Dodge
the
there.
end. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes coaches get fired, but their second, third time go around, is much better. I mean, you look at Pete Carroll. I mean, he got fired twice before he ended up by the NFL. Before his third time was the charm with the Seahawks, and went on, I think, to have a legendary career there. So yeah, I think both of those guys would work well for the Jets too, especially if they want to go the experience route.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, Antwan, in finding the head coach of the future. I want someone who's been a head coach in their career. I'm tired of taking flyers on these coordinators. I mean, Saleh, at least, I thought Saleh was very fit for the job when he first came in. He did instrumental things as the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. One I didn't think was ready, though, was that Adam Gase hire. Antwan, you covered him in Miami, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So I want to get you before we just kind of, head back in time a little. What were your thoughts on Gase at the time of the hiring? Did you think he was right? I did not think he was ready at all.
I thought they probably should have kept Dan Campbell, but I knew that was not going to be an option.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Adam Gase was the hot name. If you remember at the time there, his work with Peyton Manning, and he endorsed him there. That's kind of why he got the job in Miami. Also why he got the job with the Jets too. Crazy enough there. But yeah, I mean, and then he worked with Jay Cutler in Chicago his final year before going to Miami there. Jay Cutler probably put up statistically really one of his best decent seasons. So yeah, I definitely think I didn't like the hire. I mean, obviously they made the playoffs in 16, but I think a lot of that was on the strength of Jay Ajayi in the running game there. And then I think you kind of saw everything just kind of crumbled after that, whether it be in 17 with they end up signing Jay Cutler, crazy enough, and that after Tannehill got hurt, and that the team just went completely in the toilet. It was kind of sort of like this year with the Jets a little bit. A lot of high expectations there, but they didn't expect to be in the Super Bowl. They just thought that they'd be a playoff team, especially with even if Tannehill went down, they thought they had a good enough team, and obviously that was not the case. In 18, everything just completely fell apart, and he got fired. And Tannenbaum also, who was the vice president, he also got fired too. Yeah. Exactly. So I thought Gase is a bit of an arrogant guy, knows a lot about the offense there, but doesn't really take a lot of pride in defense. I mean, he kind of just lets them do his own thing. And I think, I don't know if he did this with the Jets, but I remember it was an instance in Miami where he was just sitting on the bench just by himself working. And I was like, I don't necessarily want a coach doing that during the course of the game.
Yeah.
You want somebody that's going to inspire people, get people pumped up. You're supposed to be the CEO of a team.
Exactly.
And just act like it. Don't act like you're just a normal position coach on the sideline just doing individual work. You need to get these players energized. And, I think that was kind of, the tale of Adam Gase era there. But yeah, it just went horribly bad, but it definitely it's got up to a good start there in Miami. But I was surprised the Jets hired him, especially after the Dolphins' experience and having seen him for 3 years in the AFC East.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Antwan, I'm going to put you on the spot here a bit for our last, I think, 5 minutes we have left with you. I'm going to read a few of the Jets free agents that are not under contract for next season. I want you to let me know if you think they're going to stay with the team, re-sign with the team, or they're going to walk. Sound good?
Okay. So, yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. All right, I'm going to start with tight end Tyler Conklin. Conklin is someone I was expecting to have a breakout year this season. You look at the numbers he put up with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian last season. Now Rodgers seemingly can't get him the football, but when he's gotten the football, I thought he's had a good season overall from his target to, really catch for yardage ratio. So what are your thoughts on Conklin? Do you think he returns next season?
I'm about 50-50 with this, but if I had to bet, I would probably say probably not, because it's hard to know, especially with the system coming in there. He's a veteran guy. He might want to go somewhere, compete for a championship or at least get in the playoffs. I mean, the Jets' experience has been rough for a lot of different players, and I can't imagine, if he's going to have some interest from other teams. Just being a guy that can move the chains there, not necessarily very explosive, but a good, reliable third down target for a lot of teams that need tight ends. So I think he'll have a lot of interest from a lot of different teams. So I'm going to say no, reluctantly, although I know the Jets would love to have him back, but I think he'll have some interest in other places.
Now another one who's had a breakout season, Jamie Sherwood, linebacker. He's up. He's a free agent this year. Do you think he's going to want to come back and stick around for this rebuild? He seems like he's really emerged as a leader on this team from what I've seen. Speaking to the media, he's been taking a lot of accountability for the team's struggles. Does he stick around?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Although he's going to have a lot of interest too, because
Yeah.
I think he's had a really good, tremendous season, especially if you end up cutting C.J. Mosley, which I think is very possible at this point, considering he's getting up there in age in his career.
Sure.
But yeah, I think you have to keep Sherwood there. Pair him up with Quincy Williams there, good young talent there. You definitely can't allow him to get out the building. So I will say yes on that front.
Yeah, just Sherwood. He's someone again. Just had. It's been a few years now where the fan base is like, all right, this is the year Jamie Sherwood. He's a hard hitting linebacker. This is the year where he's gonna, pop off, go crazy. And this was the season where he did that. Really, a huge breakout year for him. Now Chuck Clark, he tore his ACL last year after the Jets acquired him. We didn't see him at all last season, but he's emerged as a fine player for the Jets in their secondary in a safety room that struggled this season. Did the Jets retain Clark?
I think they're going to revamp the safety room, so I'm going to probably say no on that. Although he is a veteran, I don't think he's been bad. I think he's been, out of the safeties that they have, I think he's been the best one that they have currently on the roster. So, I mean, I would keep him if you can't find anybody else, but I think they're going to really look at their safety room, which I think they should, and probably get a little bit younger there as well.
All right, two more here, Antwan. Let's go to the offensive line. Morgan Moses. He's admitted to playing hurt this season. Another veteran guy. He's a leader. It seems basically pretty split right now, 50-50 as to if he's going to return for a second season in the green and white. What happens there?
I'm going to put this with an asterisk. I'm going to say yes, but I think they need to draft his replacement too, because he's getting up there too.
It's a weak tackle class, though, from what I'm hearing.
Correct. That's exactly why I would do it. But you could still draft somebody maybe in the second or third round that you could potentially groom, and then they could take over as your starter in 26. But yeah, I think he's a great leader in the locker room. The players love him. He's a voice of the Jets. Locker room there. They usually bring him out weekly, especially on Mondays when we have the Zoom press conferences. So yeah, I think he's going to stay there at least for another year. But you can already see the injuries are starting to pile up for him too. He's had a really rough year, really the last 2 years, where he played through an injury with the Ravens last year, the torn rotator cuff there, and then this year with the knee injury, and now a shoulder injury, which. We talk about players that they may shut down. Like he might be one of the players that they might, potentially shut down. But I will say this: I think Carter Warren did a solid job. Considering the situation yesterday, I have to go back and really examine, how he played. But all in all, I think he was decent. I won't say he was great, but I think he was, considering the situation coming in mid game like that. I thought he was okay.
He was serviceable.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, Antwan, one more player here before we let you go. DJ Reed. I know there's a lot of talks, obviously his tweet yesterday caught the eye of a lot of fans less than 30 minutes after the game, already going after the officiating crew. They signed Michael Carter II for the season started to the lucrative 3-year, $70 million contract. Do the Jets have enough funds to extend Reed, especially given they're going to want to try to go through a full rebuild, clean house here? Does he stick around?
I'm going to say no, because for a few reasons. I think the moment Carter signed the extension, and then you also know that Sauce Gardner is probably going to get an extension at some point too. Like I think the writing's on the wall there, so somebody has to be the odd man out, and I think it's Reed. Although I think he's playing tremendous, I think he's going to have a lot of interest from a lot of different teams there. I think he's, from a statistical standpoint and just consistency standpoint, I think he's been the best corner this year, to be quite honest with you. So I mean, I would try to find a way to keep him, even if he just makes some kind of offer there. But it seems like to me, just talking with him, like he's gonna test free agency, which he should in a year like this, especially with him getting older too. This might be the last big contract that he gets, so I think he deserves to get paid no matter where he is. But yeah, I think I have a hard time believing he's gonna return next year.
Yeah, the Reed situation is so interesting because if the Jets lost that Thursday night Halloween game, that was a teaser that got everyone back in before they went out to Arizona and lost 31-6. If they lost that game, I think there's a solid chance that DJ Reed's playing football for another team right now, and he's not here, just given the trade deadline was, obviously approaching just after that game. And the Marshawn Lattimore trade that occurred, I think it was, have it up here, it was a third, fourth, and a sixth. The sixth, the Saints got back in exchange for Marshawn Lattimore. So now that makes me wonder, Reed, who's his plays regressed a bit since then, but he's still playing like a top 5, top 10 corner in the league right now. By the time that, the Lattimore and the deadline went through, I think he had like the 3rd highest overall PFF grade, coverage grade for a cornerback in the league. So he was playing like that. And that makes me wonder what the Jets could have gotten in exchange for Reed if the Jets lost that Halloween game, or even the same outcome they won and just decided to get rid of him because they knew they weren't going to extend him in the offseason. That would be so interesting for me to see, just given that this team's going to go through a rebuild and they're trying to stock up on picks. So a lot of micromanaged, situations that have been botched by Woody Johnson. We've seen all of it, the reports from The Athletic that are now starting to surface. So this team, it's a joke, going on 14 years without the playoffs, 9th consecutive losing season. Antwan, I appreciate you joining me. Any final thoughts? And when does the playoff drought end? You think this has the potential to drag on past 20 years?
No, I won't go that long. They'll probably make the playoffs within, I would say, the next 5 or 6 years, I would imagine. But
so, approaching the 20-year mark.
the 20-year anniversary. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll have faith that they make the playoffs before then, but yeah, they have to get this right, though. They have to get this right.
If they don't hit on a quarterback in the next few years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what it's all about. This is a quarterback-driven league. Like, look at the Buffalo Bills. I mean, a lot of people left them for dead. A lot of people say, oh, well, they lost so much talent. They lost Diggs. They lost this guy, Gabe Davis. But at the end, like, what it matters is the foundation of your team. You got Josh Allen, who's one of the best quarterbacks in football. You got Sean McDermott, who's one of the best coaches in football. That's your foundation. You can change up the rest of the team around them for the most part, but if you can keep that foundation, you continue to win. And I think you've seen that time and time again. There's examples of that throughout the league consistently. Yes. So, I mean, look at the Chargers. I mean, you got a guy like Jim Harbaugh comes in there, establishes his culture, a way of winning, takes an offensive lineman and Joe Alt in the first round. Mm-hmm. And look at them, like their team that's like seem like they're going to make the playoffs. So that's that's the Jets should aspire to be. Find somebody like Jim Harbaugh who can be a program changer that can get this thing rolling in year 1. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but maybe if they get this right, maybe in year 2 they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look what you mentioned the Chargers there. That's a perfect example. The Commanders. They hit on someone like Jaden Daniels. I know their play started to regress. I think they're 7-5 now it is. As we enter, as the week starts to wrap up. So, their play starting to recline, but if this team can just find a way to hit on a quarterback, I know it's a lot, it's not as easy as it sounds, but, this team hasn't been able to hit on a quarterback, and I think that's what Joe Douglas firing really stems from. The 2 main points that I want to make is, missing on Zach Wilson at number 2 overall and not being able to build a stable offensive line during his 6 years here as the Jets general manager. So if this team could somehow find a way, next year, I think it's something. I think Tyrod is possibly the bridge quarterback. I really like Justin Fields in free agency. If you can somehow bring him in on a 1-2 year deal, he's someone I like because he has a ton of upside. He showed flashes as a top quarterback in this league at the time. I think he has the intangibles. I think he would like to play, and in a system like New York that's going to go through another rebuild. He knows what it's like to play under a good head coach like Mike Tomlin and what it's like to dominate in Pittsburgh. So it's I'm hoping this team could just somehow get it right, and I'll be able to see a playoff game some point in my life, hopefully before I turn 18 years old.
Well, I'll say real quick too, like that's what I've been saying too. I think they just need, if they release Roger, just take the hit, just take the full hit next year, take the $49 million, keep Tyrod Taylor, Jordan Travis, as you alluded to, sign a veteran quarterback, can be Justin Fields or whoever you want to, and just have those guys compete for the starting job, and then just be bad, but also try to build your team around the quarterback position. And then at that point, at that point, you could take a quarterback in 2026 like a Arch Manning or whoever else it might be in a better quarterback draft, where this year is really, to me, is only 2 guys worth taking in the first round, and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And it seems like unless the Jets, even if the Jets lose out, there's no guarantee that they're going to get either one of those guys either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, the suck for Shedeur, crap for Cam. It's, what's going to happen there. I think tonight's game doesn't have as much of an influence on it than I thought, because it would have been a different thing if the Jets somehow won yesterday, because then it would have helped, like, somehow their very marginal playoff odds. But now it's all the waste, and I think we should be rooting for
the Browns beating the Steelers actually put the Jets up. So that's what ended up happening.
Yeah, and then for the tank, for the ones about the ones talking about the tank, the Panthers. So the Jets were at fifth after they lost their game, fifth overall pick.
Yes.
Then the Panthers losing dropped them down to sixth. So they have the sixth overall pick, and Tankathon has them selecting Will Johnson, cornerback. So a lot could happen from now until the draft, but it seems like people are already getting the mock drafts ready. I know some fans aren't even watching the remaining 5 games of the season. I got to do it. I talk about this team almost every day, write about them every day, and you only get 17 a year, so you got to savor everyone. But Antwan, really appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, everyone smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Really appreciate all the support despite a dreadful New York Jets season. For Antwan Staley, I'm Connor Long signing off, and we will see you next time right here on NY Flight Jets Talk. JTS Jets, Jets, Jets.